Hello, students. Today we are starting a new topic in which we will be continuing the oligopoly market, and we'll be doing that collusive oligopoly part. And as the terminology itself determines that collusion means something, some agreement is there, something togetherness is there. So in the collusive oligopoly, there are two main types of collusive oligopoly discussion, in which we will be doing. One is cartels and another is price leadership. So these are the two broad area under which the collusive oligopoly is discussed and which you need according to your prescribed syllabus. So by that, collusive, as I was telling you, the terminology itself determines that when there is an acceptance of interdependency by the member firms, and they consider that yes, they have to consider that each other's action and reaction. So long when we have discussed about the non-collusive oligopoly models, for example the Stackelberg's model, Cournot model, where we have found that the firms are not accepting that there is a presence of the counterparts or there is a presence of the rival. But in the collusive oligopoly, we will be strongly considering that there is a rival, and my action and reaction will be according to my rival's behavior, and I will be accepting my rival's presence. And so collusive oligopoly is something which talks about this. But one thing is to be understood, that collusion is something, collusive oligopoly can be discussed under the cartels and under the price leadership. Cartel is something which is by law not openly been accepted, because it creates a kind of monopoly and antitrust law, or it is something which is not supportive by all over the world, and it is common consensus that it should not be there. But though there is no open collusion, but to some extent there is some degree of cartels working. Actually in OPEC we used to find a very strong cartel, but nowadays, though in the present world, we find that there is a break which is happening in the cartels agreement in the OPEC countries. But there are lots of debates, lots of discussion on this, where things to be kept aside. We will be sticking mainly to the theories of the cartels. And so the point is that in the cartel form, the price determination is done on the basis of an assumption that they are interdependent, acceptance of interdependence. They also believe that there is an identical cost and there is an identical demand. So the cartel explanation of the equilibrium can be done in the two way. One, it is called the joint profit maximization model, and the another one is called sharing the market model. So now first of all we will be doing the joint profit maximization model. In this joint profit maximization model of the cartel, what happens, there is a central agency which will be deciding what will be the joint profit, and it is assumed that the central agency knows the total market demand, it also knows the individual cost, and so that's why it is able to find out what is the market equilibrium price and market equilibrium output. And now once the market determines the equilibrium, once the central agency determines the equilibrium price and equilibrium output, and then the member firms produces the part of the determined output on the determined price according to the central agency's decision. So now the question is that total output will be now produced by the member firms, and how much each of them will be producing will be depending upon their own marginal cost curve. But the point is that by this entire thing there will be joint profit which will be determined. But it is to be noted that whatever profit will be earned, it is not like that the firm which had a less cost will be earning more profit and the firm with more cost will be earning less profit. So nothing like that. The joint profit will be pulled together and the central agency will be deciding how the profit will be distributed. So this is very significant point which is to be understood in the joint profit maximization model. If we take the diagram in the board, we can see that if it is OM is the joint profit, the central agency has determined that OM output, and suppose this is your OP price, and then in this price the member firms will be producing OM1 and OM2 of the output. and this is their individual. MC1 is of first firm, MC2 is suppose of the second firm, and so according to their individual marginal cost they will be determining the individual output at the predetermined price, which is determined by the central agency itself, and according to their own average cost curve the respective firms will be earning profits. But as I was telling, the profit will not be, it is not like that this firm has got relatively less cost and so its AC is lower, and this firm has got relatively higher AC cost. Doesn't mean that this firm will be earning less profit and this firm will be earning more profit. This is something which will be decided by the central agency, and and this is done only to avoid instability, avoid competition, but to have some unanimity in the market, to have some steadiness into the market. All the member firms jointly together with the consent of the keeping the central agency as the core team who determines the price, determines the output, determines the share of the member firms. So everything determines the share of the profit of the member firms. Sorry, not the share. The individual share of the member firms will be determined by their individual MC curves. As we know that if the first order condition of the equilibrium we know that it's MC equals to MR, and that is the first differentiation should be equals to 0, and we know that the second order condition is that the MC should cut from MR from below, that is the second differentiation. The slope of the MC should be more than the slope of the MR. So now if we take it just in a symbolically, so we know that the profit individually of the whole all the firms will be equals to profit 1 plus profit 2. So, and then if you can see this is the first order condition, MR is equal to MC, and finally we will be getting MR is equal to MC1 is equal to MC2. So this is something which is that's all on the first discussion of the cartels with a collusive oligopoly with a joint profit maximization. So now the point which we want to now the next discussion, or after this the next discussion is on market sharing cartels. So here we understand that in this joint profit maximization the common MR and the equity of the MC1 is equal to MC2 is the condition, and so the first order condition is del pi del x1 is equal to del r del x minus the common revenue minus the cost of the ratio of the del c1 del x1 equals to 0, and we know that it is MR is equal to MC1 because the first differentiation. Then again taking the second differentiation, the slope of the MC will be MC1 will be greater than MR, and again the slope of MC2 will be greater than MR. So that's all with the first discussion on the open collusion, that is with the collusion with the joint profit maximization. Now next we will be starting the market sharing cartels. So now in the market sharing cartel it is something like that. The member firms decide that what how they will be, it is also called the loose form of cartel. Market sharing cartel is also called a loose form of cartel. Now what do you mean by loose form of cartel? Loose form of cartel means it is not rigid in structure. It has got relatively flexibility. The member firms are much more at ease to leave, and at any time they can go out, and it is less reliable, and some sort of steadiness factor is slightly questionable. So that's why it is called a loose form of cartel. But market sharing cartel can be done in two ways. One is called non-price competition market sharing, and another one is called market sharing by quota. So now what is non-price market sharing cartel? So it is the non-price market sharing cartel is the one in which the firm is not working, there is no central agency, there is no fixed authority to tell you that this is your price or this is your limit to which you have to stay. So there is some other conditions on which it has been determined. The bargaining strength of the two firms are taken, suppose the low cost firm and the high cost firm, and then based upon that the limit of the price is determined, and then next of the the limit of the price by which the firm can determine the price, and after determining the price the firms are free to have their own conditions by which they can increase their sales. So that's why it is called non-price competition. There is a rigidity in the price structure. There will be some guidelines of the price based upon the bargaining strength of the low cost firm and the high cost firm, the member firms, and then based upon that, when one price is set, the firms will have no authority to change the price, but they will have the freedom to change to use their own non-price methodology. For example, they can go for own advertisement strategy, they can give some additional benefits to it, they can give some additional services, anything. They can change the style of the product, they can change the get-up of the product, they can change the packaging of the product, they can do anything which is not straight away hitting the price. So that's why it is called the non-price competition agreement. But it can go to the appearance, to the style, but this form is again called a very loose form of cartel, because every time the firm will have a tendency to quit from this cartel and set its own. Slightly it might go to it might try to hit the price slightly lower than what is been set, and then to increase the total customers going to him. So but in this case there is a cases in which this kind of events were done in US also. The firms were in cartel, and one of them just quit from the cartel and they have sliced down the price slightly lower. Then immediately what happened, the rest of the firms also made the cartel and they have also slashed the price much lower than that, and then this led to the price war again, and by which the market lost the stability. So this is the way in which so it is to be decided whether the cartel will be existing or not existing. It is all into the structure of the market. There are many other components too. So that's all. This is something which I was talking about, market sharing cartels in the non-price competition agreement. And now the next we will be doing on the sharing of market by quota.